Thank you, Michael. Michael was recently appointed to the board of the Bay Area Council. So, yes, very excited. He's going to be able to build our alliance in a great position now. So, one of the questions we got is, what do we do? Why Marin? You know, we thought about inviting a lot of cross-county Bay Area organizations to this, quasi-government, and we decided not to. We decided to just invite officials from Marin, service providers working in Marin, and companies that want to invest services in Marin to help build housing here, and have a conversation with Marin. We intend to do these regularly, and we're going to broaden the scope of people from outside the county. We want to bring resources, but right now this is a chance to get to know each other better. We're going to be sticking around for half an hour afterwards, and we can do more Q&A and have informal discussions, and you're going to get to meet the team for this talk. Our mission is to help end street homelessness, and we would like to do that starting in Marin, and Michael explained that we believe it's a great place to start. We want to make Marin a model and case study for the rest of the country. And when we say this, we start to get questions like, why Marin? San Francisco has so many more resources, so does LA. It's just a small county. Well, first of all, the companies that are based in San Francisco, they don't really see their area of where they work in San Francisco. They see the area where they operate as the whole Bay Area. In fact, many of the CEOs from those San Francisco companies live in Marin. Surprise, surprise, as does their leadership. And they care about the quality of life here. The clients of many of those real estate organizations are projects in Marin. So we're able to bring in a lot of these resources, and we have to think about Marin's resources and corporations as including all of San Francisco. Another thing that we hear is, well, Marin is very anti-housing. And so that may have historically been true, but we've also identified a group of people who care deeply about solving homelessness, whether it's because they're deeply compassionate or because they want Marin to be the best that it can be. In any case, you're going to meet one of those citizens tonight who's here to speak, and we know there are many more. There is an opportunity now to leverage people's hope, to leverage people's desire to solve homelessness. And what we find is that when people see everyone rowing in the same direction, when they see a common vision, then it can help overcome their reluctance to participate in homeless solutions. One thing I learned early on in this space is the only thing people hate more than homelessness are the solutions. So we all have to overcome that together. And I'd say that we believe that Marin has the talent, the expertise, the land, and it has the resources and capital. But most importantly, it's the culture of collaboration. We've spoken to a lot of cities, we've worked across cities, and Marin has the foundation, the prerequisite for the type of collaboration and cooperation that is required to pursue the type of strategy to really unlock the private sector. And we found that here. Is it perfect? No. Are there still tensions, cities, counties, otherwise? Yes, of course. But here, it's at an operating level that allows things to get done. And that's why we think Marin's a great place to work, and everyone we've met with has been collaborative, open-minded, and really interested in innovation, which is super important in this space. In fact, Marin County's had great progress. In 2017, the county and the service providers and the city got together, kind of reformed the system, and that's led to incredible results. The point-in-time count is actually down. The county and cities have put an incredible amount of resources, both during and post-pandemic, that have advanced the system. And with projects such as Room Key and Home Key, hundreds have received much-needed shelter and permanent housing. So we want to build on that, and we're going to talk about how we build on that. While you've been all doing this hard work, the reality is you've had one hand tied behind your backs. And you've had one hand tied behind your backs because the private sector has been sitting mostly on the sidelines, resigned to the fact that this is unsolvable. That's the narrative. We talk to companies all the time. We talk to $500 million foundations. And they say, quote, we don't put our money there because it's like throwing your money away. It's unsolvable. That's a narrative that has to change. And the question we have to ask is, why is that the narrative? How do we take a group that is frustrated, skeptical, and openly critical of almost every single initiative to come and join the fight. But we do that by understanding what are the barriers to getting them inspired, to getting them excited, to getting them emotionally invested. And so we listen to them, and here's what they say. And just the messenger here, so don't kill me, but we have to think about whether it's true or not. This is the perception of the private sector. When they see housing projects, they see them as fragmented and uncoordinated at best, competitive at worst. They don't understand how each of them connects up to a larger plan to meet the point in time count. They don't go to the city or county websites, they don't consume the information that's produced. How can we meet them where they are? They don't see a clear vision that everyone can sign up to, and so they complain. And they take it out on you, frankly, which isn't fair. So how do we change that? Well, we're creating a new model of engagement, a new platform for the private sector to be inspired and to come alongside. And we need them, because unless the federal government's going to step up in a huge way and pour a ton of money into this, we really need the private sector to step up. And so what we are is a nonprofit alliance of real estate professionals, strategists, corporate executives, attorneys, finance people, and together we're working to address street homelessness. And this isn't a policy group, this isn't an advisory group, we're an action group. We produce zoning memos, we produce massing studies. This group has opted in to do work, the missing work that it takes to take something to the point where it can go get community, financial, and local support. How do we do that? How do we do that? Well, most organizations in the space just receive an RFP in their inbox, a request for proposal. It's very transactional. What we do is we engage them in a conversation, we invite them into a community of their peers that are going to take a leading role. We tell them they have a leading role to play. Because if you want to build hundreds or 1,000 units, you need the real estate industry expertise. And we ask them to step up, and we build relationships with their leadership. We present at their staff meetings. And we say, first of all, homelessness is solvable. It's not true. And you hold the keys. If we can show people a vision and budgets and timelines and renderings, we can rally people around it. And there's an emotional transformation that happens. People get excited, and they come up and say, we wanted to give, we just didn't know how. An executive from Gensler told me once, this is the most inspiring work I've ever done in my career. And they've worked with us in the past on other projects in San Francisco. Doug Zarker's here tonight. Thank you, Doug, for coming. And we hear that regularly from them. They care, they live here, they have the skills. They're architects, they're designers, they're construction people. And we give them a way to plug in. And we basically say, come and help build the PSH, the interim, the emergency shelter, and whatever else is needed. And what they do is they provide pro bono and discounted services. They contribute, and they set an example for the rest of the community, for donors, for the philanthropic community, for regular citizens, that it's not the city's job to solve homelessness, it's not the county's job, it's everyone's job. That's the reality. Everyone has a role to play. Software companies have a role to play. People who provide pillows have a role to play. And we create a platform for everyone to play that role. And those real estate services get us a lot of the way there. And they lower the cost to build this housing. Now, it's not enough to build cheaper housing, all housing, but for street homelessness, it can get us, our target is a 30% decrease in the cost to develop street homelessness with an alliance. And it helps us move faster and better. Our organization prefers not to do the development, but we can. We have the capability if needed, if there's no one else to do it at a lower cost. We also bring in best practices from around the country. And you're going to hear from Scott Ackerson on our report today about examples from other cities. And we're out searching for innovative funding models and new financing sources. We're actually in conversations now with a fund from LA. It's a $190 million fund. And they are willing to fund 100% of construction costs here in Marin for projects, if we can make it work. And that's money that we're bringing in from outside the county in to create housing and some homelessness solutions here. Keith and I were also at a conference in Dallas, a national conference on homelessness, where we learned about Department of Transportation funding and other funding sources. And we believe we can increase philanthropy as well. So this work in particular breaks through a sticking point, which is we have a lot of lists in our housing element of land, but we don't know which ones are feasible. We have to do the environmental, the geo, the zoning. Who's going to do that work? Cities often don't have the budget, those lists sit there. Our alliance steps in and does a lot of this work. And when you hear about plans, they typically stop at a needs assessment. How many beds do we need for youth? How many do we need for seniors? And we do a lot of that work underneath that allows these projects to move into the housing pipeline and figure out what they need, what it'll cost, are they viable? And that's a critical missing role. We're going to enable all this collaboration with our platform. This is our prior version. We're building another version, and it's going to be coming out soon that we're going to be using in Marin, where everyone can see the projects, where everyone can contribute to them. And this is a way to understand the larger plan. How does it track against the point-in-time count? We can leverage the great publicly available county data that's already there and add to it project-specific data and additional functionality, so people can not only understand how each of these projects contribute, but they can track it, and most importantly, they can contribute to it. People want to feel like they're part of a team. They need a way to help move the needle, otherwise that frustration comes out in other ways. And we're going to use this to help drive resources to everyone. I'm going to skip this in the interest of time, and I'm going to say that to the city and county officials in the room, we're not trying to duplicate any existing systems or work that you're doing. We're trying to help get the message out about the work that you're doing. Do more marketing in different ways, via different platforms, help bring more resources to those projects, and help you generate new projects. To the service providers here, we don't operate housing projects and we don't provide services to the unhoused. Instead, we're going to try to bring you valuable partnerships, more donors, and pro bono and discounted services to build more of the buildings that you need to do your work. And to the donors in the room, our platform will enable you to see how your donations in any one project or program in Marin connects to a larger portfolio of projects that ultimately solve this issue together. Our team you're going to hear from Keith tonight, you're going to hear from Scott, you already heard from Michael. I'd like to acknowledge my co-founder and our chief operating officer, Don Piper in the back, and our board member, Raja Wall, who's here tonight. Jason and Madeline couldn't be with us. At the end, please find our team, chat with them. Behind these people is a larger group of volunteers, and behind them is a group of organizations. These are just a few, and the real estate list is much longer. Keith is going to share it with you in a minute. But this isn't about us. It's about all these organizations. That's why we're called Urban Vision Alliance. And we really focus on the border of our team and the people in this room doing this work is pretty seamless. And that's what makes this culture work. And what we see in these companies is a culture shift from when is the city going to solve this, damn it, to what can our firm contribute, what can we all do together, and that spreads to citizens. That moves us from hopelessness to hope.